My parents called me the night before my wedding and told me to cancel. Family comes first, they said, their voices calm, almost casual, as if they were giving an order instead of breaking my heart. At first I couldn't speak. My chest tightened, my stomach twisted, and my hands went ice cold. Every dream I had built about this day, every tiny detail I had planned for months, suddenly felt meaningless. My partner's voice trembled on the other end of the line. What did they say? What do we do? And I couldn't answer. I felt trapped, cornered, like the happiest moment of my life had turned into a nightmare. I tried to reason with them. But the venue is booked. The guests are coming. The flowers, the music, everything. My voice cracked, but they didn't hesitate. They repeated themselves, family comes first, almost like a mantra. And with every repetition I felt my entire world crumble. I had always trusted them, believed they would protect me. And suddenly I realized how fragile trust could be, how quickly it could vanish with a single sentence. I sank onto the couch, staring at my phone, replaying their words over and over. It didn't make sense. Why now? Why on the eve of my wedding? Was this about tradition? Pride? Or something more personal? Something they were hiding from me all these years? My mind raced through every memory, every subtle criticism, every time I had bent to their will. And the more I thought, the more I realized, this was about control, pure and simple. Have you ever felt that helpless, suffocating panic when someone you love tries to take away your future? That's what I felt. For a moment, I laughed nervously, imagining my parents watching this story on YouTube someday saying, "It's just family priorities." But there was no humor. Only the pounding fear that my life, my wedding, my happiness, my future, could be decided by someone else, someone who didn't seem to care what I wanted at all. I called my partner again, their voice shaking. Do we just cancel? I wanted to reassure them, to promise everything would be fine, but even I didn't know the answer. Fear and anger collided in my chest, twisting into a strange determination. Maybe this was my chance, not just to fight for my wedding, but to take control of my own life, to show that I wouldn't be manipulated, not now, not ever. I began pacing, each step echoing in the empty apartment. I thought about every subtle attempt to influence my life, the careers they had suggested, the friends they had disapproved of, the times they had dismissed my choices. And suddenly it clicked. This wasn't just about the wedding. This was about power. About seeing how far they could push me. About testing whether I would obey blindly or finally stand up for myself. And maybe, just maybe, it was also about revenge, theirs against me for reasons I couldn't yet see. As I sat down again, my thoughts became darker, sharper. I imagined what it would be like if I obeyed, if I gave up everything I had dreamed of for their priorities. Would I ever forgive myself? Could I live with that regret for the rest of my life? And then, on the other hand, the idea of standing up, of taking back my life, felt thrilling, dangerous but exhilarating. The adrenaline rushed through me, and I realized that fear and determination were two sides of the same coin. Both could drive me forward. Both could change everything. My phone buzzed again. A message from my partner. I'm scared. What if this ruins everything? I took a deep breath. I don't know what will happen, I whispered to myself, but I know one thing, I'm not giving up without a fight. In that moment, I felt a strange clarity. This was no longer just about a wedding. It was about my life, my choices, my right to happiness. And whatever secrets or betrayals my parents were hiding, I would face them, one way or another. And yet, even as determination grew, a chill ran down my spine. Whatever motivated them, it wasn't just family tradition or pride. There was something hidden, something personal, something that had been kept from me for years, and I had no idea what it was. But I knew this, whatever it was, it would surface soon. And when it did, it would change everything. My wedding, my family, and the way I saw the people I thought I could trust forever. I sat there, staring at the walls, heart hammering, mind spinning, counting the minutes until I would have to make a decision. Could I surrender my happiness to their demands? Or would I rise, take control, and finally assert the life I had fought to build? The night stretched endlessly, heavy with fear, tension, and anticipation. And deep down, I knew one thing. By morning, nothing would ever be the same. My parents' words from the night before my wedding haunted me as I sat there, staring blankly at the walls. Family comes first. That sentence echoed in my head over and over like a broken record. I couldn't stop asking myself, what did they really mean? Were they protecting me, or controlling me? And why now, on the eve of my wedding, when I was supposed to be happiest? I tried calling them back immediately, but every attempt was met with calm repetition. It's just family priorities, they said. And I realized that the more they said it, the less it made sense. I had always been the obedient child, following rules, listening, trying to keep the peace. But this felt like a test I wasn't prepared for. And deep down, I knew it wasn't just about a wedding. Something else was happening, something hidden, something personal. The night dragged on. My partner sat beside me, holding my hand, but even their presence couldn't ease the storm raging in my mind. I kept replaying memories of my childhood. The times I had been punished for small mistakes, the subtle manipulations disguised as guidance, the unspoken pressures that made me question my own instincts. Could it be that this was all connected? That my parents' true motives had been hidden for years, waiting for the perfect moment to surface? I thought about my future, my dreams, the life I had envisioned with my partner. And then a surge of anger hit me, a wild, uncontrollable anger. How dare they try to take this away from me? How dare they assume they had the right to control the most important day of my life? I had always loved and respected them, but in that moment, I realized love alone couldn't justify betrayal. And yes, I felt betrayal, sharp, cold, and cutting deep. Have you ever felt that mix of fear and anger that makes your hands tremble and your mind race at the same time? That's exactly what I felt. I started pacing, thinking through every scenario. Could I cancel the wedding and obey? I could, but at what cost? My happiness? My dignity? Or should I confront them, even if it risked shattering the fragile relationship I had left with them? And then the thought hit me, maybe confrontation wasn't enough. Maybe they needed to feel the weight of their actions, to understand the consequences of trying to manipulate someone they claimed to love. I sat down again, phone in hand, staring at their last text. We're doing this for your own good. For my own good? I laughed nervously, bitterly. Since when did control masquerade as care? My parents had always believed that obedience equaled love, that their rules were more important than my happiness. And now, standing on the edge of the life I had planned, I realized the truth. They were trying to rewrite my life for their own convenience, and they didn't care if I suffered in the process. The more I thought about it, the more details emerged. Subtle comments they had made over the past months, odd questions about my wedding plans, strange suggestions disguised as advice. It all pointed to something bigger, something personal. And my gut screamed at me that if I ignored it, I would regret it forever. The night became a mix of fear and determination. I couldn't let them control me. I had to find out the truth. I began making mental lists. All the relatives who had their own hidden agendas, every financial decision my parents had pressured me into, every moment they had subtly undermined me. The picture was becoming clearer. This wasn't just about tradition or family obligations, it was about power, about control, about their desire to shape my life to fit their vision, not mine. And in that realization, a spark of defiance ignited. Maybe this was my chance to finally stand up, to take control of the narrative, to reclaim the life they were trying to manipulate. Hours passed, each one heavier than the last. I couldn't sleep. My partner tried to comfort me, but I could see the worry in their eyes. They knew this wasn't just a fight over a wedding. It was bigger. Much bigger. And then, out of nowhere, I realized something terrifying. Whatever I decided to do, my parents were expecting me to obey. They had never faced resistance before. And that meant that any choice I made would not just affect me but everyone around me. I paused and asked myself a question I had never dared to ask before. What if they had always wanted this outcome? What if the wedding was never about me at all but about proving a point, a test of loyalty, obedience, and control? The thought sent chills down my spine. I had always believed that my parents loved me unconditionally. Now I wasn't so sure. And the fear of the unknown, of secrets yet to be revealed, gnawed at me relentlessly. Pattern interrupt. I laughed bitterly to myself. Can you imagine it? The parents who taught me everything about love, suddenly trying to teach me a lesson on obedience with my wedding as the stage. If this were a movie, people would call it melodramatic. But it was my life. And the drama wasn't over, not even close. As midnight approached, I felt the tension reach its peak. My mind was a whirlwind of fear, anger, and calculation. Every instinct screamed at me to fight back, to assert myself, to reclaim my wedding, my happiness, my life. But fear whispered equally loudly, warning that the fallout could destroy relationships, burn bridges, and leave scars that might never heal. It was a dangerous game, one I had never played before and one I didn't know if I could win. I thought of my partner again, holding my hand, their face pale with worry. I realized then that this wasn't just about me. It was about us, about our life together, about proving to the people who doubted me that I had a right to happiness. And that thought fueled a fire in me, a sense of purpose that cut through the fear. I wouldn't let anyone, not even my parents, dictate my life with threats disguised as guidance. As the night dragged on, the pieces slowly came together. I could feel the hidden motives surfacing in my mind, the subtle jealousy, the power plays, the desire to assert control one last time. And then a thought hit me like a punch to the gut. Maybe this was the beginning of something much bigger. A reckoning. A confrontation that would expose the truth, reveal betrayals, and force me to make decisions I never thought I would have to make. I sat there, heart pounding, every sense heightened. I knew the morning would bring chaos, questions, confrontations, possibly anger or tears. But I also knew that whatever happened next, I had to stand my ground. My parents' motives, hidden for so long, were about to collide with my determination. And when it did, nothing would ever be the same. The night before my wedding stretched endlessly, full of fear, anticipation, and quiet plotting. My mind raced with plans, possibilities, and the undeniable knowledge that I could no longer be a passive player in my own life. Something had to give. And by sunrise, the outcome would shock everyone. Me, my parents, and anyone who thought they could control the course of my happiness. I didn't yet know how it would unfold, but I knew one thing. I was ready to fight for my life, my love, and my future, no matter the cost. My parents called me again that morning. "We mean it," they said. "You have to cancel. Family comes first." Hearing it for a second time didn't make it any easier. In fact, it felt worse, sharper, heavier, like a hammer striking the fragile trust one had left. My heart pounded, my hands shook, and my mind raced 1,000 miles per hour. I had spent my life respecting them, obeying them, letting their rules shape my decisions. But this was different. This was my life, my love, my wedding. And I knew that obeying now would destroy everything I had fought for. I looked at my partner, who gave me a small, nervous smile, their eyes filled with worry but also trust. "We can't let them win," I whispered. And just like that, the decision was made. I wouldn't cancel. I wouldn't let fear, tradition, or manipulation steal the one day I had waited for my entire life. I would face them, confront the truth, and take control, even if it meant burning bridges I had thought unbreakable. As I prepared for the ceremony, my mind was a whirlwind of anticipation, anger, and strategy. What were their motives? Why had they suddenly tried to control me like this? Was it jealousy, power, or something deeper? I replayed every subtle manipulation, every hidden control they had tried over the years. And suddenly I realized, I didn't need their permission. I didn't need their approval. This day belonged to me, and to the person I loved. And in that moment, determination and courage surged through me stronger than fear. Walking down the aisle, I could feel the weight of their words behind me. "Family comes first," they had said. But now, I understood something crucial. Family doesn't demand obedience by threatening your happiness. Family supports, loves, and trusts. And my parents' betrayal had revealed the truth. Some people aren't ready to accept that their child can choose their own path. Some people need a wake-up call. And that wake-up call would come today. The ceremony began, the music playing, guests smiling and whispering. I felt a strange mix of nerves and exhilaration. Every step I took felt like a small rebellion, a statement that my happiness was not negotiable. My partner's hand in mine grounded me, reminded me that love isn't about control, it's about choice, trust, and shared courage. And with every step, the shadow of my parents' betrayal felt lighter. I was taking back my life, reclaiming my joy, and asserting my right to happiness. Halfway through the ceremony, my parents stood at the edge of the room, their expressions unreadable. Shock, anger, confusion? I couldn't tell. But I noticed the subtle tension in their faces. It hit me then their plan had failed. Their attempt to manipulate me, to control me, to assert power over my life had crumbled. And for the first time I realized, sometimes standing your ground is the most powerful revenge you can give. It doesn't require shouting or destruction. It requires courage, decisiveness, and refusing to let anyone steal what's yours. Pattern interrupt. I smiled faintly, thinking, funny, isn't it? All these years of rules, all these lectures, all these manipulations, and it took one wedding to show me who I really am. And in that realization I felt a strange liberation. The anger that had haunted me transformed into empowerment. I had faced betrayal, fear, and control, and I had risen above it. As vows were exchanged, I felt tears welling up. Not just for the joy of marrying my partner, but for the truth I had discovered about myself. I was stronger than I had imagined. I was capable of standing up to anyone, even the people I had trusted most. And perhaps most importantly, I had learned a lesson in silent revenge. Sometimes the best way to show someone the consequences of their actions is simply to live your life fully, proudly, and without fear. By the time the ceremony ended, my parents approached cautiously. Their words were measured, their tone uncertain. "We only wanted what's best," they said. I nodded politely, a small smile on my lips. And in that moment I realized something profound. Their control no longer mattered. Their approval was irrelevant. I had claimed my life, my love, and my joy. And that, in itself, was the ultimate revenge. As guests celebrated, I felt a mixture of triumph, relief, and quiet satisfaction. The tension, the fear, the manipulation, all of it had led to this moment. A moment where I chose courage over obedience, love over control, and self-respect over manipulation. And as my partner and I danced, I knew the story didn't just end with a wedding. It ended with empowerment, resilience, and the knowledge that no one, not even the people who shaped you, can dictate the course of your life if you refuse to let them. And somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't just a story about me. It was a story about all of us, about standing up, fighting for our happiness, and facing betrayal with courage. It was about shadow revenge, about the quiet power of taking control when the world tries to dictate your path. And if you've ever been in my shoes, you know the truth. The strongest revenge is often the one where you simply refuse to be broken. Pattern interrupt. I chuckled softly to myself, thinking, all those years of fear, all those moments of doubt, and it took one wedding to finally show me who's really in charge. And yes, the satisfaction was sweet, not from hurting anyone but from reclaiming what had always been mine. My life, my choices, and my happiness. So here's the takeaway: never let anyone, even the people you love most, control your happiness. Stand tall, be brave, and live your life unapologetically. That's the real shadow revenge. If this story inspired you, don't forget to check out our next video on shadow revenge about the power of compounding, how small actions over time can change your life in ways you never imagined. Click now and let your journey to personal power continue.